By the time you arrived back, the sun was already beginning to set. You arched you, you arched your back as you stretched your arms towards the ceiling, which, while it had been a good day, it had enough activity to cover an entire week. Liz tried to hide a yawn behind her hands. You weren't the only one feeling worn out. I'll be heading up to your room, I mean the guest room, since mine stopped being available as soon as I was out the door. Her tone was light. She had quite a lot to say on the subject when you'd first taken over her bigger room after she left the college, but there had been many trips back home for her since then. The room hasn't been hers for years. It was more of a running joke now that she continued to bring the topic up to this day. Just wanted to follow in my big sister's shoes. Flattery as a compliment can only go so far, Faye. A small laugh was shared between you and your older sister. You better believe you'll be back in the guest room when you've got your own place and we're both in town for a visit. We can take turns. You'll have Thanksgiving and I'll get Christmas. What a reasonable and mature suggestion. I'll think about accepting it. She flashed her familiar grin, and you couldn't help but feel glad she was back around, even if it was temporary. With that, she plodded out off to the spare room. You were ready to do the same. Moving into a new space was your first opportunity to decorate from scratch. You were really satisfied with the feel of your tiny part of the world. As your thoughts drifted, you tried to bite down another yawn. It was no good. Your bed was now lodged in your mind, and all you could think about was collapsing on it. You trudged up the stairs to your room. Stepping inside, you closed the door behind you, blocking the rest of the house. When you turned back around, you realized you were not alone there. Comfortably perched on the windowsill was someone very familiar to you, Cove Holden. How are you here? Surprise? His tone was easy and relaxed. It certainly was a surprise. You hadn't expected him to be within the state, never mind your own house. He hasn't answered how he had suddenly just appeared back in Sunsetburg, so to be fair, you had been so astounded there hadn't been much of an opportunity for him to chat with you. Thankfully, Cove was only waiting for a good moment to start and began to explain. I got in about 15 minutes ago. No one was home, so I figured I'd come in the usual way, the window. A small smile had formed on his face. You were still staring at him, unable to blink in case he disappeared. You could still barely believe that he was really there, mere feet away from you. I left my bags in your backyard. I hope that's alright. That was when you truly understood. Cove had come straight to you upon getting back to town. You were his first port of Cove, taking precedence above all else. Even though you hadn't been in a while when he called, Cove had ensured that see you at the earliest opportunity rather than allowing his plans to change. You laughed. The delight bubbled out of you as a fit of chuckles. He could never even attempt to hide how he felt about anything, including you. Cove dropped from his seat on the windowsill, landing lightly on his feet. He made his way over to you, the smile still resting on his face. "You're too crazy." You jovially punched him on his arm. Your first made light oh con your fist made light contact with his upper arm. Cove playfully nudged your shoulder in return. "I missed you." Even if he hadn't said it outright, you would have gotten the message from his body language. Cove was grinning widely, his raised cheeks burying his eyes, which gleamed like hidden gems. But he looked at you as if you were the most exciting treasure of all. "Obviously. Was the trip any good?" "Yeah, I had a great time." Cove told you about how his trip back had gone. His mom was doing really well. She had a project in the works that she was thrilled about. As a result, Cove was going to be sticking around in Sunset Bird for the time being. Things were settled as much as they ever could be. With Cove back once more, you felt at ease. Cove stretched his arms out over his head, his eyes on the window and the world beyond. The sun had set while you'd been busy reuniting.
Well,
"I should probably get my stuff and see Dad." He glanced over to you with a familiar, expectant look. "Wanna come with me?" "Sure, I can go over for a while."
cool.
Cove began to head to your room, to your bedroom door. You followed after him. The two of you casually went down to the ground floor of your house. In all the excitement of Cove's return, you hadn't even remembered the gift you'd prepare for when he got back. It would be best to give it to him now, before he left your house. "Can you wait here for a little while? I got something for you." Cove tilted his head, intrigued.
Really?
"Really?" You nodded with some eagerness, trying to imagine how he'd react when he actually saw it. "You've brought Cove something special." It was a fruit bouquet. You didn't need to stray far from Cove to reach the fridge where the present was stored. You pulled the cut fruit bouquet out and returned to Cove to present it. You knew the exact moment he spotted the gift as he broke into laughter, clapping his hands. You waited for him to finish chuckling so he could speak once more. "Happy summer. Happy summer. My dad is gonna love this." He pulled out a skewer. It was a strawberry one, the kind you liked to eat first. Trust Cove to remember something like that. You accepted it gladly. "I'm surprised you held off from eating at least some of it yourself." "Well, you and Derek were the ones who stripped it bare back then." He merely smirked. and you knew that the teasing was good-natured. You're really, seriously too nice to me. You smiled back. You have no right to call anyone else too nice. Cove brushed his hand against the pale ghost of a scar of his arms. He was at a loss for what to do now. The clock ticked away, counting the seconds of silence. Once you had a chance to settle your thoughts, you figured that you'd tell Cove the intriguing news. I have to tell you, you're never gonna guess who I saw today. You didn't give Cove a chance to reply. There seriously was no way that he'd figure it out. Shiloh.
Huh?
Shiloh? Cove repeated the name, his expression blank. From when we were kids. Cove pondered for a moment, then snapped his fingers. Oh, he was the freckly boy from the first summer, right? The one who moved. The guy was named Shiloh, and he looked just like Shiloh from back then, even wearing a hat still. But he had no idea who I was and ran off somewhere. Cole frowned. That's, I don't know. Too bad I missed it, though you knew him better than I did. That was definitely true. Not only had Cove known Shiloh for a shorter period of time, but he and Shiloh had never quite gotten along. Not that they were enemies either, just kids who were only ever getting together because of other people they both knew. I wonder what Shiloh's up to these days. I don't have any idea. He didn't say much. Oh well. That was everything you had on that news item. So you moved on to the next big update. Also, you know the mean old neighbors, the ones who would always yell at us? He cringed, recalling those particular memories of back in the day was not pleasant even for someone as nostalgic as him. Yeah? They're not coming. They didn't rent the condo this year. Cove's jaw dropped. You didn't blame him. The elderly couple had been an institution for as far back as you could remember, long predating Cove's arrival. Even now, as a teenager, you found your neck prickling as you walked by their condo, half expecting a scolding for breathing the wrong way in the vicinity of their vacation home. It was strange to think of that coming to an end. Wow. Cove blinked, clearly struggling with the idea in the same way you had. I didn't see that coming. People being gone, people coming back. It feels like I've missed a lot. This has been a busy summer already. Well, you haven't missed the fireflies. They haven't shown up yet. Well, that's something, and we'd better not get left behind. There's still stuff to do. You nodded. The two of you headed out and traced the most familiar path you'd ever walked, the trip across the road over to Cove's house. It seemed that no sooner had the night begun than it was already at an end, and the dawn of a new day was soon upon you. The next morning, your belly was full of breakfast, and you were in a pleasant mood. You hoped the rest of the day followed suit. Later, you were meeting up with your friends, Cove, Miranda, and Terry, to go into town. It was all on short notice, but that was because everyone was just so excited that Cove was finally back home. Having a nice daydream? You blinked. pushing all your thoughts away and returning to reality. Your mom was watching you with a teasing smile. So, what's on the agenda today? I'm meeting up with some people. Well, I hope you and your friends have fun. Don't get into too much trouble. She winked at you. You knew both of your moms wanted you to enjoy every bit of this summer before all the big changes started. I'll try. But before you go gallivanting around the town, could you bring the mail in? I'm finishing up putting the dishes away over here. Alright? Thanks so much. As soon as you were outside your front door, you couldn't help but see Cole and his dad standing around in the road. They noticed you too. Hey there, Faye. Hi, good timing. You should join us. You waved at him. Cole matched your grin. His whole body appeared to relax, having you there. You noticed Mr. Holden was taking in the scene of you and Cole with a self-satisfied smile. Cole followed your line of sight and shot his dad an unimpressed look. For a moment, Mr. Holden seemed like he had a thought dancing on the tip of his tongue, but he decided to keep it to himself. So, what are you up to today? Me and Cove are meeting some friends later. We're gonna paint the town red. Exciting. They won't know what hit him. Cove shook his head disapprovingly, but you knew him well enough to tell that he was entertained by your notion. Yawning, Mr. Holden stretched his arms over his head. My boy and I have just been waiting around to see what the new neighbors are like. It was definitely his idea. I don't know how you're not interested in this, that it's big news. Besides, it'd only be polite to greet the new folks in town. Maybe it'll be a single dad and his son. Cove snorted some airy laughter at the suggestion.
Oh?
You think we'll have some competition? For several moments, Mr. Holden was unable to answer. He was still chuckling when he put his hands on his hips and tried to compose himself. Absolutely not. We're the number one father-son duo in this town, and no one's challenging that. Mr. Holden took one more glance at the currently vacant building and sighed dramatically. When he turned back to you and Cove, sorry, his whole body seemed deflated. There's no sign of them, and I still need to head over to work soon. Cove gave his dad a few reassuring pats on the back. Okay, I promise to keep an eye out. I can text you if anything happens. Really?
Of course.
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, only until I have to meet up with Terry and Miranda. Would that still work? With a wide grin breaking out of his face, Mr. Holden looked absolutely thrilled to have his noisiness enabled. That works. He moved to firmly place both hands over Coke's shoulders, fixing his child with a firm stare. Son, you are my true ally in this world. Mr. Holden stood up straighter, letting Coke go. He looked reinvigorated. Okay, with that settled, I'll go make some money. That's always been the one thing I do best. Mr. Holden headed off to the garage with a big wave goodbye. Cole smiled the whole time, time, you both watched his dad leave. You really liked Mr. Holden. You had for a long time. As soon as he was out of sight, Cove sighed lightly. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, just not looking forward to waiting. Guess I'll be hanging around the street a while. I can wait with you. You wouldn't abandon Cove there to wither on the road out of boredom, really? Of course. I like keeping you company, remember? He stared at you for a moment, smiling softly and thinking about his response.
Me too.
I like that too. Cole put his hands on your shoulders, gripping you solidly, but not enough to hurt. His eyes fixated on you just as firmly. He was serious. Faye, you're my true ally in this world. That got a fair amount of chuckles from you. He grinned, the stoicism fading into amusement.
Thank
You're
you.
always good to me. It's no problem. I don't know about that, but I'm just happy you're always here. And then he let you go. Cole stepped over to his front porch steps, lazily taking a seat and leaning back on his arms. Our watch begins. Nodding in agreement, you joined Cole on the front porch steps. You both sat there in comfortable familiarity as you settled in for the waiting game on the new tenants. The neighborhood was quiet, and you sighed contentedly to closing your eyes and feeling the light breeze. Eventually, you both perked up at the sound of a car. Taxi followed the noise, turning onto your street. Cole's eyebrows raised at the sight, and he sat up straight on the stoop.
Oh?
This has to be them, right? The only people who come out here live here, it has to be. Now that they were here, you couldn't help but feel just a bit curious. You wondered what kind of person would be living in this neighborhood for the summer. The taxi pulled to a stop as you expected in front of the now empty condo. It was on the same side of the street as your house, a few buildings further up. Without getting to his feet, Cove tried leaning and tilting his head to get a view of the passenger door as it opened. The single occupant exited the cab. Huh? You could feel what Cove was in that moment. After the last renters, this new visitor was definitely not exactly what you'd expected. It was a young man, had to be close to your age. He was dressed fully in an eclectic black, white, and gray outfit. Even with his side swooping hair matched the scene. The only other pop of color was from something that couldn't easily be fashioned into submission, a pair of dark brown eyes which you caught when he looked over at his audience. Hello, folks. Who might you be? We're the neighbors. The smile, already prominent on his face, curled further. It was cocky, but you didn't get the impression it meant something at first. Hallelujah. You and Cove shared a familiar look with one another, bewildered even further. The color-coordinated man left it there. However, however, and with a firm click, shut the door of his ride. Then he returned to then he returned his back to you to retrieve a large, unsurprisingly black suitcase out of the trunk. Continuing on with his own business, he strode forward and lightly tapped on the driver's side window with his knuckles, asking for them to roll it down. When it was open, he leaned down and rested his arms on the edge. You assumed he was thanking the driver for getting him there, considering he slipped them a tip during the brief chat. They shook hands, and then he pushed himself up and away from the taxi, with both arms giving the driver room to leave. The taxi pulled away, rolling carefully down the road and out of sight around the corner. The new renter had officially arrived. He left his suitcase on the ground, out of the way of the street, and sauntered over your way with a confidence of someone who had been invited to join. Cole finally stood up to greet this person. You followed suit.
Excellent.
I'm Baxter Ward. It's excellent to meet you, neighbors. You were standing on the side he was approaching from. When Baxter got close enough, he offered his hand to you first. You shook it. Baxter gripped your hand firmly to give a satisfying shake. Welcome to Sunset Bird, Baxter. I'm Faye. Hey Faye, I am quite keen on getting to know you better this summer. We could be good friends. From your other side, Cole made a sarcastically amused scoff. And you are? He lifted his hand out to Cove next. Cove shook his hand, still eyeing Baxter carefully. I'm Cove. Baxter's whole demeanor lit up for unknown reasons. His eyes shone as he studied Cove a moment.
Really?
Now wait, is that a nickname or your real name? It's just my name. Cole spoke mildly, having given that explanation many times in the past, but it clearly charmed Baxter all the same. He tossed his head to one side with a laugh. Your parents knew exactly what they were doing. I can't imagine a more fitting name for the face I'm seeing, Cove. That's gorgeous.
What?
It's really not. That's a lot considering you're talking to a stranger, Baxter.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. It wasn't intended to mean more than it did. I like your name, but you don't have to mind that. Cove gave us a slight nod in recognition of Baxter's words. I'm patently against stepping on anyone's toes. He chuckled to himself. It seemed like there was some extra meaning hidden there in his words, and you noticed that Cole raised an eyebrow, picking up on that too. Baxter stood up straighter, striking a slight pose with the position of his feet. He began to speak, but suddenly stopped and closed his mouth. He began absorbed in his own thoughts, tapping a finger to the side of his chin, and as he stared at you, you shot Cole a confused glance. He shrugged in response. After a few moments, Baxter had the same smile curl from before. He removed the finger from his face and used it to point directly at you. We've met before.
What?
What? When? Baxter continued to smile widely. His head tilted slightly to the side as he studied your visage. It's embarrassing, but I haven't remembered that part yet. He laughed cordially while Cove stared at him in disbelief. Baxter chuckled further, mirth growing at what must have been a very amusing situation in his mind. I'm getting there. Don't tell me. I know you want to, but do not. It'll come to me. He continued, looking you up and down, hand back over his chin, while he racked his brains for answers. And then recognition appeared in his face. With a snap of his fingers, he announced his revelations as as though he had forgotten his own birthday. The cypress at the summer soiree, of course. Turning away from you, Baxter began rambling to himself about the details. That had to have been before any regionals. So, at the time, I was about 14 years old. That makes it 5 years ago from now, right? Cove's mouth fell open. Are you kidding me? Is he serious? Did you really meet this guy at the country club party 5 years ago? If it helps, you were with another person when we spoke. Green eyes, short hair, short generally, with a cute bow tie, I believe. Oh, so you and Derek? Derek, that was his name. Yeah, I think I did. Really? You nodded. It took his explanation to get it, but that memory of the guy you and Derek chatted with was coming back to you. Cove's eye darted between you and Baxter again. The instigator of this discussion lightly gestured with your hands in response. It's good not to forget a face. Cove, remember when I told you the crazy story about Derek and I accidentally crashing another group's party one time? Yeah? That's what he's talking about. You really helped us out back then, Baxter. You're very welcome. Huh? Why were you there? You see, my parents are members of the Cypress. I happened to be in that particular location for an event related to my dance circuit. That was the chosen venue because they already had experience with the business in the other branches.
To be honest,
Funnily enough, the entire reason they joined was for the connections they could make with other members there. Looks like that perk has finally hit for me too. Originally, I thought it was only any good since I could occasionally dance there. Baxter suddenly stopped and stood up straighter. He grinned. Dance. Oh yes, that's what I was going to say. I'm a ballroom dancer, hence the phrasing earlier. Oh, I don't know much about dancing, but that's pretty cool. It's not hard once you get the basics down. Cove didn't look convinced at all. Baxter took that as a cue to keep talking. Well, he grinned in a way that was rapidly becoming familiar to you. If either of you are looking for a partner, I'm available. Cole frowned at the overt forwardness. Thanks? I'll pass, I think. I'd rather not. Baxter nodded understandingly and let the subject go. After that, there was a lull in conversation, and Cole attempted to fill it.
So,
Um, what made you decide on Sunset Bird? Oh, yes. Well, my parents rented a condo, so I had to I had a place to stay while I'm off for a semester from college and not living in the dorms. There was a playful glint in Baxter's eyes as he continued.
honestly,
Ideally, they wanted to send me somewhere that wasn't too exciting, but lucky for me, they picked the wrong street, considering the two of you lived here. Cove was practically reeling over how Baxter found a way to fit comments like that into every single topic thus far.
mm,
Why do you keep doing that? I don't you don't know us, but you talk like you already do. Cove spoke, firm yet genuinely confused, and Baxter smiled cautiously. I don't feel the need to keep words of praise to myself, and when I say something, I mean it.
see?
Plus, what's the point of spending my off semester alone? The best part of being somewhere new is getting in interact with new people. And I'm honestly the first person who's acknowledged you are attractive and intriguing people. True, you're hidden away in a tiny tourist trap, but still. Baxter crossed his arms. After studying your faces a few more seconds, he decided to continue. Am I only trying to score a hookup or get a romantic fling started by saying those things? No, that isn't the point of speaking well of others. I was raised better than that. Though I would be fussed if that's what my words led to. Also, no.
Hmm?
I am flexible, not a surprise. I can back off with the lines if you don't like the attention, but I would like to be friends if we can. Cole wasn't sure how to respond. He glanced at you, and he continued to look at your face when he spoke. Thanks for answering, but I don't think I'm interested in that. Maybe not the friend thing, but the other part. I'd appreciate it if you didn't do that with me. I'll keep in check. Glad we're working this. Glad we're working things out. Shifting his weight to his other foot, Baxter tried to move forward.
So?
So, since you were both already out here, did my arrival interrupt anything? Definitely not. You smiled and silently agreed. If Cole wasn't going to say anything, neither were you. Baxter didn't need to know how much of today was spent waiting to see who was moving in. Baxter watched you both carefully for a hint of what was going on, but decided not to pry any further. Well, if either of you are free, I'll be thrilled to hang out this summer, but we can save the scheduled talk for later. I should get my things inside. He gave a small nod of the head and flashed you both a dazzling smile.
Goodbye.
Goodbye for today. Bye. Cove gave a small wave as well. Bye. Baxter then turned on his heels and strode back to his suitcase, picking it up and bringing it to his condo. You and Cole were silent as Baxter unlocked the door and disappeared inside the house. With him completely out of sight, Cole let out a long breath.
Well,
I don't know how I'm gonna explain that guy to my dad. You burst into a fit of laughter, trying to imagine the conversation. At least the job is done. We saw the new neighbor, and now we can go meet up with Terry and Miranda. Yeah, we should get going. You gave Baxter's condo one last glance over your shoulder. You were not interested in him. It seemed like Baxter was trying, but you couldn't imagine making time for him. Turning your attention back to Cove, you pushed all your thoughts of Baxter aside. You both started making your way towards town,